हरि ओम। ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनः शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम्। ॐ महागणाधिपतये नमः। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। Namaste. Welcome to the fourth session of Viveka Chudamani. Today we are going to study 6 more shlokas with our team of teachers led by Dr. Hegde sir. Before that, Dr. Kiran will give a quick recap of previous class. Over to you, Kiran sir.
Good evening. Welcome. Looking for truth is like Sita searching for Rama within in Ashokavana. It is an arduous journey within, but a pilgrimage worth taking. Let us recall some qualities which will empower us in this journey. Viveka is first and foremost, and it is the jewel in the crown. It means discrimination beyond good and bad, beyond created and creator. It is distinguishing the infinite truth from Mithya Jagat. Next is Vairagyam, the six disciplines, and Mumukshuttam. Next slide, please. Mumukshu is intense yearning or desire. It is to give up what does not belong to us, and it is giving up all bondages born out of ajnana, that is the misunderstanding that this ego or body is the real me, and realize that something is missing in this present scheme, and we long to know the real self or my swarupa. It is like a man realizing that he is caught in a bad dream and wants to come out, like a person in a mirage in desert yearning for real water, like a man groping in the dark cave looking for the path. How intense is their earning? Like that, this inter knowledge earning also should be there. Next slide, please. Next important discipline is titiksha. Titiksha means it is endurance, forbearance, or acceptance of non-favorable situation without lamenting, or chinta or vilasa vila rahita. Uh, it is doesn't mean body harming. We should be objective and take suitable steps to reduce suffering as much as possible. But we have to learn to endure hardships and prepare accordingly along the journey of this uh, spiritual journey. Just example is getting up early and reviewing the class, etc., and practicing the sadhana, meditation, and leading a simple life. This is titiksha. Next is Dhamma and Uparada. Dhamma is Indriya Nigraha or sense control or sense discipline. As we know, senses acts as a first gateway, and Dhamma involves willpower or regulation of the senses. This is needed till mind is mastered, or samaha, which we learned in the previous classes. This disciplining doesn't mean suppression. We have to take our senses away from the worldly material and focus on spiritually uplifting objects like satsang, visit to Punya Kshetra, nature, etc., rather than pubs and malls. The next discipline is uparati, that is pulling away from distraction. Like you see in this mother monkey is pulling the child away from whatever the distraction it is causing, and also not relying on external objects for happiness and security. Next slide, please. The perhaps the most important discipline which is needed is Shraddha, which Sir has explained very nicely in the last class. It roughly translates as faith, but there is no, a word which is synonym to this. This is a very important discipline, and it is dependent on the seeker, not on the guru or shastra. And if we have to choose between shastra and guru vakya, which we should prefer? We should prefer Guru Vakya, because Guru is the one who will unravel the Shastras to us. Let me give you an example why it is so important. If I give you a rose to smell and say this rose doesn't have smell, all you have to do is you just have to smell it and say whether it is smelling or not. So Shraddha is not involved much, and you know the conclusion. And here the senses is the pramana, whereas in Vedanta Vichara, the Shastra or Guru Vakya itself is the pramana. So the faith is very, very important, or Shraddha is very important, because from that only the real Swarupa can be known. Because if uh, Guru says Aham Brahmasmi or Tattvam then the real meaning of Swarupa, we should be able to grasp it. Next slide, please. Yeah. Samadhana is a mental concentration or focus on the learning and moving away from the other and keeping it on it. Always keep this teaching and its practical aspects in mind throughout our life, and even when we are not involving in doing Vedanta. Now, we should learn all these are not qualifications, they are qualities. So, 100% is not possible. We mature it along the spiritual journey. Let me give you an example. Many of us are in transferable job. We go to a new place. As we go to a new place, we find out how the people are, how the city is little bit, and get on to our work. We don't sit and do research, or we spend whole life doing only that work. Similarly, as we learn the basic qualities of these qualities, we concentrate on our spiritual practice, and rest of it will fall in place by itself. Next slide, please. Once we are suitably qualified, the guru, next slide, please. The guru appears by himself. So if you have got guru in your life, you assume that already you have all the qualities. And once the guru appears, how do you present yourself to a guru? Like an empty teacup ready, not filled with our own doctrines, isms, theories, etc., saying I am an Advaitin, I am an Dvaitin, etc. All this slate should be wiped clean, ready to fill the blessings of the Guru, who is ready to release us from the bondage. I will end with a quotation from Omar Khayyam Rubaiyat, which poetizes what all we have learned. Now the new year reviving old desires, the thoughtful soul to solitude retires, and where the white hand of Moses on the tree of life puts out, and Jesus from the ground ascends to the wisdom. Thank you very much, sir.
Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. Thank you, Dr. Kiran, for a nice recap of the last class, which spoke about the various qualifications required. And that is how Viveka Chudamani very systematically brings out the basics of Vedanta, how to value our lives. And once we know that moksha is the most important goal, and then we work for the required qualifications. We now know all these qualifications. When we have a certain amount of these qualifications, that is when we approach a guru. This mantra from the Mundaka we have discussed it many times, is very relevant and which summarizes entire what we are going to see in this particular class. Pariksha Lokan Karmachitan Brahmana. Brahmana here means a wise person, a person who has inspected or has looked into one's life to see what is that we have really accomplished through all our efforts all these years. Of course, we have done well, but when we compare ourselves with others, we still feel compared to others, I have not achieved much. It could have been much more. But one thing becomes clear for a person who has really inspected one's life. The next key word is nirvedyam, which can be translated as vairagya. Vairagya is a sense of, what is that I have really achieved? The wisdom is that the infinite, what I want is the infinite. And the infinite can never be achieved through finite efforts. Tat Vijnartam, once this wisdom is clear, Akrita, the infinite, na kritena, is not brought out through finite efforts. Then you come across people who have accomplished, who may not have all the worldly things. These are our gurus, but you can see tremendous amount of fulfillment. These are the people who have accomplished, and not only accomplished, they're able to show us the way. Now we take a 180-degree turn back into ourselves to go to the guru. We go to the guru with Samit Pani. To what kind of a guru? All that will be explained in the class today. Shrotriya Brahmarichta. Bhaskar, can you explain verse number 19?
Gurubhyo Namaha, Viveka Chudamani, verse 33. The verse goes like this. Strotriya Vrijno Kamaha Hato Yo Brahmavittamaha Brahmanyo Parataha Shantaha Nevindani Vanalaha Ahetu Kadaya Sindhuhu Bandharana Matam Satam. Here, Shankara inquires into the essential qualifications needed for a student as well as a teacher. The Sishya or the spiritual seeker should have the mental preparedness and a firm faith that Shruti or scriptures are the primary source of self-knowledge, Vedanta Pramana, whereas Itihasa and Puranas are supportive and secondary sources. With this background, the Sishya approaches a guru. This is called Upasadhanam. The Guru's grace is the transfer of knowledge of the sacred texts to the disciple through consistent teaching over a length of time. Consequently, Guru's teachings become the pramana. Time and again, Swami Paramatmananda keeps saying that Guru's grace is not earned by touching the feet or doing some seva. It is but scriptural teaching alone. With these basics, the verse elaborates on what type of a teacher is Sishya should approach. The Guru should have twofold skills, Brahmavittamaha and Shrotriya, through knowledge and communication, which is thorough knowledge, since this is a teaching program. Avrijno, a sinless person with no offense whatsoever. Akhama Atehu, with no desire. Everything is trivial and useless for the Guru, since Guru symbolizes infinite. Brahmavittamaha, a knower of Brahman, a realized master, and the best. This best does not mean the best, good, better, best. It is just an emphasis. Brahmani upaparataha, withdrawn into Brahman itself. All thoughts in Brahman while performing any activity. Passion, Shravan, Jagran, Ashran, Swapan, or maybe even conducting business. This Gita chapter 5 elaborates and elucidates all this. Another virtue of a guru is a strong absence of notion I, ownership or doership. Only action is present, not the actor. Nirindani Vanalaha, fuel to the fire. Here, fuel is exhausted, but the last speck burning. Here, fuel is referred to two things, Vishaya or objects coming into our mind, even desires for that matter. Fire never says alam. Alam means enough. Apparently, fire grows and proportionately kama increases. Hence, a guru is devoid of wants, including sensory experiences through ahara. Guru is nirindana. A guru is revered as Ahatu Sindhu, an ocean of compassion, where a guru has no agenda or motives and considers everyone with Sarvatma Bhava, including a bandhu as an obedient disciple. Another profound virtue is that he has no vikshepa, and guru is an apostle of Shantam, tranquility. I conclude stating that guru is a gnani, and you are blessed to be under the tutelage of a Bhenang Guru. Hari Om.
Thank you, Bhaskar, for explaining this verse, which tells us about the various qualities of a guru. Smita, please.
From verse 32 to 40, the topics covered are the guru, what is it that makes him so sought after by an aspirant or a spiritual seeker. Second is disciple or shishya, what openness and humility marks him out to receive the teaching. Third, their sacred relationship, the greatness of the love and devotion, that is the basis of Guru Shishya relationship. Here, Shankaracharya talked the practice which was there in the Gurukulam in the olden days. Guru will never start teaching immediately after a spiritual seeker enters the Gurukulam and meets the Guru. And Shishya also cannot ask for teaching straight away. Initially, the Guru asks disciple to stay in the Gurukulam and do service to the Gurukulam and the teacher for some time. During that time, Guru and Shishya will observe and assess each other. An assessment time is given to both, and the Shishya gets spiritually tuned. Now, what should the disciple do during that time? It is explained in this verse. The verse begins like this: Tamaradya Gurum Bhaktya Prashya Sevanaihi Prasannam Tamunaprapya Pruchednyaktavyamaatmanaha. And the meaning goes like this: worship that teacher with deep devotion, and when the teacher is pleased with your surrender, humility, and service, approach and ask for what you must know. The subject or the context of this sloka we have to supply. That is a Sahajijñasuhu, means the seeker. Gurum Bhaktya Aradhya, should respect and revere the Guru, because the Guru represents the Shastra, and Shastra which is the only source of self-knowledge. And that Shastram is there in the Guru. So Guru represents the Shastram. One has to revere the Guru and Shastram. Therefore, Tamaradhya, worship that Guru. This worship will help in developing two important attitudes towards the Guru, that is Shraddha and Bhakti, and also make the student humble. And this is very important, as Guru is the only person who helps us to use the Shastra Darpana properly. Therefore, a student has to be humble. Now, what is the obstacle for a student whilst learning? The obstacle is intellectual arrogance. This is the worst obstacle for a student. A student should have to think well and ask genuine questions. An intellectual arrogance will go by offering namaskara to the Guru. Guruntam Aradhya, worship him. We have now seen how a seeker or a student should approach a Guru and why he should approach a Guru. Now, how should a student express his devotion to the Guru? That is through three things. Guru, Prafya, Prashraya, Sevanaihi. In this context, Prava means Pravibhava, that is bending forward humbly to express reverence. We can here take it as Namaskara. Then Prashraya. Prashraya means respectful, modest behavior. The body language, the vocal language, all must be respectful, polite, and well-mannered. The third one is Sevanam, services to the Guru, performing various services with proper attitude. By serving Guru, Shishya gains mental purity. With this attitude, Guru will be pleased. Prasannam Tamunaprapya. With this character of the disciple, he will also know that student is a sincere spiritual seeker and he is not a time pass at a retreat. The sincerity of the student is appreciated by the Guru. Whenever a sincere student comes to Guru, the Guru is also happy. Therefore, he gets an opportunity to share the knowledge, which is in turn a worship of his own Guru. Every Guru worships his Guru by sharing this teaching. It is a worship of the Lord of Shastram. It is a nididhyasanam for the Guru. So a Guru is always happy when a sincere qualified student approaches him. In Kathopanishad, Yamadharmaraja tells Nachiketa, "May I have more students like you." Now the Shishya approaches the Guru, who is pleased by his attitude and sincerity, and now he should ask for what he wants. Prucheta Gnatavya Atmanaha. Atmanaha means for Shishya, for self. Gnatavya means whatever he wants to. That is to know about the self-knowledge, whether the Brahman is to be known, reality is to be known. About that subject, he should ask, means Prucheta. The Shishya should ask the Guru, seek the Guru to know the knowledge of the self. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you very much. We will go to the next presentation by Nilima. Over to you, Nilima.
Viveka Chudamani, verse 21. In the present verse, we are going to see the courtesy to question by the student to one's guru, who is embodiment of truth. The disciple's condition can be compared with that of a person who has just suffered from third-degree burns, being hastened to the emergency department in a hospital. There is no time to waste. While serving student develops mental awareness and he becomes well established in the glories and noble qualities of the Guru. The Guru in inner purity, as one vanity of false values and attachment to the body and intellect are dropped. It also makes one's mind sensitive and subtle to recognize the weakness in one's own life. He becomes sadhana chatusta sampanha. Seeker come to see such a pressing urgency for liberation. Let us see the verse. Durvara samsara dhavagni taptam dodhuyamanam duradrustavate bhitam prapannam paripahi mrutyo sharanyamanyadaham na jane. Durvara samsara dhavagni taptam, roasted in the blazing infernal fire of change, dodhuyamanam duradrustavate, being tossed by the storms of misfortune, Pitam prapannam paripahi mrityo, terrified without and within, O Lord, save me from death. Sharanya manyad yadaham na jane, I don't know of any other harbor wherein to seek shelter. Durvara samsara davagni taptam, forest fire is compared to samsara in this line. Forest fire spreads fast, it is huge, wide and very difficult to control. Forest fire burns, and so too problems of life like Adi Daiva, Adi Bhuta, and Adhyatma. This verse explains the dangers to which the seeker is exposed from outside and within, overwhelmed by sorrows of ever-changing patterns. Dodhuya manam durudrustavatehi. As the wind increases the fire, so too our past sinful actions acts as a wind, which adds up to the fire of samsara, tosses a seeker up and down with joys and sorrows. As the direction of the wind is unpredictable, so too seeker is unable to control one's life. Bhitam prapannam paripahi mrityoho charanya manya daham na jane. See, however skillful that swimmer might be, but it's impossible to cross the ocean by oneself. In such situation, in scriptures also, during such desperate situations, we have few instances where sincere seeker turns towards a guru for higher wisdom, technically called Guru Upasadana. Like in Gita, chapter 2, verse 7, we get to see that even the mighty Arjuna surrenders to Lord Krishna. In that verse, Karpanya dosho pahatastvabhavaha. Then the heart is so much over by taint of pity, and even his mind was so confused. Then in the last line, Arjuna says, Sishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. This shows surrendering of Arjuna to Lord Krishna, saying, I am thy disciple, please kindly instruct me. In other similar instances like Kathopanishad, Valli 1, verse 26, Shobhava mattasya yadantakaita sarvendriyani jaryanti teja api sarva jeevitam alpameva taveva vahan tavarutya gite. Nachiketa expressed his disinterest in sense pleasures, which Lord Yama offered him, saying their nature is ephemeral and decaying, which burns down the senses with continuous experience of joy and sorrow. Life being very short, Nachiketa doesn't intend to waste it. His burning desire for knowledge, such mental attitude, brilliant inner personality can be seen only in the matured seekers. Seeker, frightened by challenges within and without, surrenders to the Guru and seeks refuge as one does not know any other protector. Conclusion. Seeker sees himself caught in the fire of samsara compared with forest fire. There is a surge of fear in his words as he seeks liberation. The only thing which helps his struggle is a compassionate glance of a guru. Knowledge to burning hearts of a student is like cooling waters or cool rays of a moon, which alone can soothe the earth scorched by the sun. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you, Nilima, for explaining this slide, which gives the plight of a ardent seeker who has reached a guru. This is the course of the Viveka Chudamani. Now we know what we really want. We are very fortunate to get a guru. And once there is a guru, we open our hearts out. All of us are tormented by the Tapatraya. Swamiji has described most of our lives as MBBS. So repetitively meaningless, burdensome, boring struggle. And once you have identified that, I am caught in a cycle, I'm not able to progress, that is when a person approaches to a person who has gone beyond, opens up one's heart. And let us see what the teacher has to say to such a person. How do we approach the teacher, Sachin?
Hari Om. Om Guru Pyo Namaha. This mantra is explaining the importance of Guru by none other than the great Guru Shankaracharya himself. It said that if God and Guru appears together, one has to first take blessings of the Guru before you reach the God. And one can understand why it said so through the explanation of this beautiful mantra. I would first chant the mantra and explain its meaning thereafter. Shanta Mahanto Nivasanti Santo Vasanta Vallokahitam Charanta Tirnam Swayam Bhima Bhavarnavajana Nahe Tunanya Napitarayanta. So, next slide. Santaha, the root meaning is from Sat, the Sat part of Brahman. If we refer to 17.26 verse of Bhagavad Gita, it has been described by Shri Krishna himself about the Sadbhave, Sadhu Bhave, the noble people or the dharmic people. These are the qualities of gurus, the teachers. In addition, they are also called as Mahanta, the generous ones, people who live for others and they are always in the pursuit of helping others. Here, Swamiji has given a wonderful example of the firefighter. Next slide, please, sir. Just as the firefighter takes his noble job of saving lives day in and day out, so does a guru who lives by example as a jnani. In this worldly life, he takes the role of a noble human being who is always anchored in the knowledge and helps out the people in trouble. While doing so, he is aware that he might be getting sufferings as a normal being, but his body only suffers. He is a jnani. He is always anchored in the highest truth. And how does he do this is given in the following lines. Next slide, please. He is like the Vasanta Rutu, or the spring season in English. It brings the warmth and beauty all around us. It takes away the gloom and laziness and brings back the life and liveliness around us, which is very important for the harmony in the society. So the guru is a noble person who gives the helping hand with warmth and brings about the positive energy that might be lacking due to the problems one faces in samsara because of the wrong understanding. He gives the right understanding to answers to the samsara. The next slide, please. Here, Guru also is like a rescuer when one needs the most. In this vast ocean, Arnava, here this ocean refers to samsara. It's also called Bhima, meaning Bhayankara. So we might get lost due to ignorance and our life-rupee ship might be in trouble, and only with knowledge do we get out of it. In such situations, it's the Guru who would like to take us away from this Bhima Bhavarnava, which is with his guidance and his teachings. Guru can give guidance because he, Swayam, has crossed Tirnaha, the ocean before. And how is this ocean? It is frightening ocean. Bhayankara Arnava. He is anchored firmly in the highest reality, which is Brahma Satya Jagat Nitya, and helps anchoring the students as and when he drifts away from the shores. In the next slide, Shankaracharya further praises the teacher by commenting on how effortlessly they perform the noble duties. Just by their mere presence, their calm and composed nature, like a Bhagavan Ramana, by your mere presence, the devotees feel blessed. But a word of caution here, the student should be ready as a real seeker, who should carry himself, particularly his ego, like a small dry twig, which gets ignited with grace of the Guru, and in turn gets relief from all the pain and discomfort in samsara, just as a crying baby would immediately calm down by even the slightest glimpse of his or her own mother. In the next slide, Shankaracharya further adds that these noble ones do not do the deeds, they do the deeds without any motive, ahetuna, and for the others, to other people to cross the samsara. Anyan janaha tarayanti. In the next slide, we see that through this verse and the next verse, we can get the message that the realized noble gurus is like the cool moon rays, which every night selflessly and without any real motive calms and cools the earth. Here, the earth can be compared with the student who has been constantly baked or scorched from rays of samsara rupi sun. Hari Om.
Thank you, Sachin, for an explanation of this verse, which also makes us feel how blessed we are that we have discovered such a Guru, and we can be sure that with the presence of the Guru, he will be able to take care of all our sadhanas that are required. Vidya, if you can explain the next verse, please.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Shri Guru Uvacha Ma Bhaishta Vidvamstavanasthyapayah Samsara Sindho Staranestyupayah Yenaiva Yata Yatayosya Param Tameva Margam Tava Nirdishami. Guru said, "Fear not, O learned one. There is no danger for you. There is a way to cross over this ocean of change. I shall instruct you in the very path by which the ancient rishis walked beyond." The perfect disciple, having duly reached the master's feet, expresses his fears if he will ever be able to grow out of the unending sorrows of life. Here, the Guru proves to be a sympathetic teacher. He pacifies the student and gives him hope and spiritual solace. Guru, with the paternal consideration and love, assures the student that what he fears is only a myth. First, Guru says, Ma Bhaishta. This is a very important statement. Don't be anxious, worried, never panic. Bhaishta here means fear. Ma Abhaishta here means do not fear. Next, Guru addresses the student as Hey Vidwan. This is a real reassuring pat at the back for the student, as he is actually a qualified student. Vidvamstava. Hey Vidwan, O learned student, may you not be frightened. Tava apayaha nasti. There is no danger for you. Danger from what? Samsara Sindhu, from the ocean of samsara. Samsara Sindhu Tarane Upayaha Asti. Upayaha means a method, a means or a sadhanam. Taranam means crossing. There is a method of crossing the samsara. This method is a time-tested one which has worked for every sincere seeker. Therefore, Guru says, Yatayaha asya paramyena yata. Yatayaha literally means sannyasinaha. In the Shastra, wherever the word sannyasa comes, it means a committed pursuit, the mental preparedness to sacrifice everything for moksha. A very committed person is called yatihi. Therefore, Shankaracharya says yatayaha. Many committed seekers of the past, asya param yata. Asya means samsarasya. Param means the other shore. Yatayaha means they have reached. So many sincere seekers of the past have reached the shore of samsara, have reached and crossed the shore of samsara very successfully. Therefore, with all confidence, the teacher assures the student, you can also reach, asserting here there is a way of crossing the sorrowful ocean of samsara. Therefore, he says, Tameva Margam Tava Nirdishami, the path followed by the ancient seers who had themselves crossed over from the finite to the infinite. Tameva Margam, I shall teach you. Here, Guru Shishya's Parampara is also signified as the traditional teaching and guidance is passed on to the seeker. Thus, we are assured in this shloka that what will follow in the ensuing discourse is an exhaustive discussion upon this sacred path of self-realization, which has been authentically proclaimed by the innumerable brilliant rishis of the ancient times. In this context, I would like to recollect an anecdote from Bhishma Sahani's book, where he talks about a very flourishing, prosperous kingdom which is surrounded by thick forest, where many rishis and sages were pursuing this spiritual path. King and the subjects were very grateful and had lot of reverence for these rishis, as they believed that their well-being was wholly due to the power of penance of these rishis. One day, a stranger from the distant land comes to the king and proposes to cut down the forest and build a beautiful temple for the sake of these rishis. King was also quite pleased because he wanted to make the life of rishis very comfortable. King goes to the forest to bring this great news to the rishis. But in turn, he was shocked to see the infuriated rishis after listening to this news from the king. And they said that they would leave that forest immediately and go to a distant forest to meditate in peace. King knew very well that the welfare of the state totally depended on the power of these, the meditative powers of these rishis. So he came back and sent the stranger away from the land. The veracity of the story, we need not really think much about it, because our whole culture is based on the Guru Parampara. Their lifestyle, their teachings, and their words matter everything to us. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Vidya, for a nice explanation of this verse, and also the significance of a guru who's part of a Guru Shishya Parampara, not for a few years, but for so many centuries, and who are so confident that so many people in the past have successfully crossed. And so, therefore, our gurus, our teachers have a time-tested method. And here we have, in this stage of Viveka Chudamani, the student has approached the teacher very reverentially, a very qualified student, and the teacher is reassuring, please do not worry, there is nothing to fear. I will show you the path that has helped me to cross. And in the next verse, which Sudhavani is going to explain, the teacher is able to give the whole essence of the Vedanta in a very cryptic and a very brief verse, as told by Bhagwan Ramana in another context, where he clearly says, Naham Deham. This is also called the Alpha and the Omega of Vedanta. This is the beginning and this is the ultimate. Beginning means we have so much identified that this body is mine, but the teacher begins to say, I am not this body. And if I'm not the body, then who am I? The whole of the rest of the Viveka Chudamani is a proper inquiry to discover, if I am not this body, then who am I? And then that will help us to discover the real me is the one, that conscious principle who's speaking through me, who's listening through you. Let us learn to identify. And this will be explained to us by Sudha Vani in this verse number 24. Over to you, Sudha.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. In the previous shloka, we have seen how a guru responds and accepts a sincere seeker and promises him to liberate from this samsara. Now, the teaching begins from this shloka. This shloka is the foundation for the entire teaching. Let us look into the shloka. Ajnana yogat paramatmanastava hyanatma bandhas tataiva samsrutihi tayor viveko dhitabodhavaknihi ajnana karyam pradayet samulam. The first line here talks about samsara karanam, that is the reason for samsara. And the second line talks about samsara nivritti, that is the solution. It is said that self-ignorance is the cause of the samsara and the self-knowledge born out of self-inquiry is the solution. Now, before going into the details of the shloka, let us understand what this self is all about. In the Vedanta, the entire universe is broadly divided into two parts, that is Atma and Anatma. Atma is the capital I, the self, conscious being, the experiencer, the subject, the knower. Anatma is the non-self, the object of experience, that is all the things and beings. Next slide, sir. When I say I am born, I am referring to this body. When sense organs perceive, I say I perceive. When mind is confused, I say I am confused. Next slide, sir. Now, Vedanta asks a question. Do this body, mind and senses come under Atma, the subject, or Anatma, the object? We are under the impression that this body, mind and sense is Atma. But Vedanta says they belong to Anatma, the objective universe. It says we have not put proper boundaries between Atma and Anatma, and the confusion is because of this ignorance of the boundary line between Atma and Anatma. That means there are two versions. Our version is it includes body, mind, sense complex, that is Jivatma, we call it as. Then Vedanta firmly excludes these and it is called Paramaha Atma, Paramatma, the real Atma, the real self I. Only this small I, Jivatma, is born out of confusion. Now, when we look into the details of the shloka, the first line says, next slide, sir. The first line says, you are really Paramatma, but you are associated with self-ignorance and conclude you are mortal. So, Ajnana, that's the ignorance, has caused Adhyasa, mistake, and this Adhyasa has produced a false version of Atma, which we call it as Jivatma, which is suffering from samsara, that is samsritihi. So, self-ignorance and self-mistake is the cause of all human struggle, and it goes away by understanding the real boundary between Atma and Anatma. When this boundary line gets clearly demarcated, the Jivatma version gets dismantled. Now, the second line says, Tayor viveko ditabodha vaknihi ajnana karyam pradahit samulam. The fire of knowledge kindled by the discrimination between these two burns up the effects of ignorance together with their root. So when we look into the word-to-word meaning, Tayor vivekaha, a clear discrimination is to be undertaken between Atma and Anatma. Vidita bodhaha, self-knowledge born out of self-inquiry. Vanhihi, fire. This knowledge can be compared to fire, which burns down all our ignorance, that is the darkness, and burns down everything, samsara and karmas. Pradahit burns down, ajnana karyam, the problem of self-misconception, which gave rise to self-jivatma misconception, is removed totally for me, that is samulam, along with the root cause ignorance. Thank you, Doctor. Hari Om.
Thank you. Thank you, Vani, for a nice explanation of this key verse. And in the course of this explanation, where the teacher says you should be very clear what is Atma, what is Anatma. And if you have this understanding, the whole problem of samsara is gone. And through the words of the teacher, The student is reassured, but the student now has a lot more questions. So the next class will begin with a series of questions, and the whole of the Viveka Chudamani is an answer to those 7 questions that the student is going to ask. We will conclude this class with a story to meditate upon. This is a story about what is the greatest prayer anybody could ask. In the last class, we spoke about our mind as being the uh, the kalpa vriksha. That means whatever I imagine for myself can make it true. And especially those of us in the spiritual path, we should be able to know, if I had all the choices in the world, what is it that I can ask for myself? Now, this is a story I heard many years ago, and I would like to share the story up with you, of a man who would constantly pray to God that he wanted wealth. He continued to pray to God, and God appeared to him. And God appeared to him in person. He was so bugged with his prayers. He said, I've had enough of your prayers. I will give you 3 wishes. You can ask whatever you want, but remember, only 3 wishes. So the man immediately, got and thought that, my wife is such a nag. I will have happiness if she dies. I'm a little embarrassed to ask you this, but I want my wife to die. His wife died. At a funeral, so many people came to him and said, what a wonderful lady she was. She helped me when I was sick. She helped me when I was in financial difficulty. Each person came and told him various glories about his wife. Suddenly he realized she was actually a wonderful person, and he had really not seen the full aspect of hers. He quickly goes back to God and says, I want my wife back. So his wife comes back. Now, with that, 2 wishes were gone and only 1 wish was left. This time, he did not want to make a mistake. He wanted to be absolutely certain what is the best thing to ask. Now, when you don't want to make a mistake, what you do, you ask other people. So each one some people said ask for money, some people said ask for health. But if you have all the money in the world but no health, it's of no use. You have health but no money. So he was wanting to know what is the best thing to ask. And when you are confused, what do? You postpone. He postponed. He was getting old. And suddenly God realized that I had given this person 1 more wish and he had not asked for it. After some time, God appears to him and says, why don't you ask for your wish? So the man very embarrassingly looks at God and he says, I'm so glad you have come. Can I have 1 more wish? And God says, what is that? Can you, in your intelligence, tell me what to ask? Oh God, can you tell me what is the best thing to ask? And God says, I know you. I know your whole history. I know your past. I know your future. So I know whatever I give you at every moment is what is best for you. The best prayer that you can ask is to be grateful, to be happy and content with whatever I give. Friends, comes in all our scriptures. In the Islamic scriptures, it comes as inshallah. In the words of Jesus, it is thy will be done. If I'm able to cheerfully and gratefully accept every moment as it is best for me. But this is not any form of a passive acceptance. It is more like the serenity prayer, which says, give me the serenity to accept things that I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. This is better explained by the Bhajagovindam song, where this verse goes like this: Yoga ratova, bhoga ratova, sanga ratova, sanga vihinaha, yasya brahmani ramate chittam, nandati, nandati, nandateva. Which means whether I am in yoga, whether I'm in spiritual pursuits, or whether I'm enjoying all the material things of life, whether I'm in the company of all people or whether I am alone, it does not matter in what state you are, in whether things are going well or not well. But if your mind is dwelling on Brahman, if your mind is reveling on the Brahman, irrespective of whatever is in the outer world, Friends, I think that is the best prayer that anybody could ask, that irrespective of the situation in the world, if I can revel in the Brahman, Nandati, Nandati, Nandat Eva. But still, if you want a prayer, there is this beautiful prayer, Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhak Bhavet, Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Over to you, Venkatesh.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, friends, for your patience. We come to the close of today's class. We will be back with a few more selected verses of Viveka Chudamani next Monday. Let's meet on Friday, same time for our Upanishad class. Please log in by 6:45 p.m. local time. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om.